So like I said, the worship of the ancient bull can be found throughout the entire world across all nations and all religions. And that's why I have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the Bible, your religion, is without question all about the ancient sacred bull god, which is why the entire Bible is full of bulls or bullshit. So you condemn the pagans for worshiping the Son of God, but in fact, your religion is based entirely upon worshiping the Son of God. And that's why the bull god Zeus or Jupiter is the son of God, exactly like Enlil, the son of God, On, and of course Thor is the son of God, Odin, and Baal is the son of God, El, which is why your religion focuses on the Son of God. So like I said, it's funny that you condemn the pagans for, let's say, worshiping the sacred tree, when in fact your entire religion is based upon the sacred tree. So the sacred tree has been in fact worshipped by almost all cultures of the ancient world. It is a symbol of the fertility of earth and nature, which is why they worshipped the sacred tree. And in fact, they combined the sacred tree with the sacrifice of the bull, which goes way back into history. So that's why you see the sacrifice of the bull god Osiris under the sacred tree. In fact, that's why the ancient Druidic pagans would take two bulls or bi-bulls and sacrifice them under the sacred tree. And that's why the elite or the Elites still worship the sacred pole or the sacred obelisk, which comes from the ancient sacred maypole, which comes from the sacred tree. And the eve of May Day is known as Beltane, the bell-horned god of fire, which is why they would hold sacrifices and sexual rites. So perhaps now you'll understand why the elite go to the sacred trees or the sacred grove at Bohemia, and that's exactly why they perform their ritualistic sacrifices. And that's why in the Illuminati film Pan's Labyrinth we have the horned god with the child, and of course the sacred hole of the sacred tree. And of course pagans worship the goddess, thus the hole in the tree represents the uterus or the sacred bull. So now you'll understand the Illuminati film Alice in Wonderland and why the innocent little girl by herself goes to the sacred tree and falls down the sacred rabbit hole. So you see, this is why the Illuminati have the film called The Wicker Man from 1973, and then they did a remake recently. And you see, the pagan symbolism is everywhere in this movie. The ancient sacrificed one, which is why the one they sacrifice is placed in the man tree, which is the symbol of the anthropomorphic figure of the season, which is the sacred tree man or the wicker man. And that's why they sacrifice it and burn it alive to make their crops grow better for the coming year. And that's exactly why their new movie coming out is called The Wicker Tree. And believe it or not, the movie was released as The Cowboys for Christ. And of course, a cowboy is a bull boy because they watch the cattle and ride the bulls. So the symbol of the Christian cross is not Christian at all. It comes from the ancient world and actually represents the cross of the zodiac, or more specifically, the ancient Celtic cross, which is the cross of the 4 seasons. So you see, the ancient T, or the cross, which is the Tau, which comes from the Taurus, the Taurus bull. And that's why the Ankh, or the sacred cross of Egypt, also comes from the sacred bull. Now remember how I explained that the tree trunk etymology is related to the bole, which comes from bahel, which means to blow, to inflate or swell up, like the bulky bull. So this is why the fertility of the bull penis, or the penis in general, is related and associated with the sacred trunk of the tree, which is a swollen up or phallic representation of the male penis, which is why when you get a hard-on, you call it a woody. So it's easy to see how the tree is a phallic fertility symbol, and thus the tree represents the fertility of the year or the seasons. And the tree has the branches in the air and the roots in the underworld, as above, so below. So you see the tree represents the seasons of the year, which is why when you look up the word for seasons, almost always they'll show you the seasons or the four seasonal pictures of the sacred tree. So the sacred tree is the symbolic representation of the fertility of the year, the death, and the resurrection. So like I said earlier, that's why we have what's known as the storm gods, which are the gods of the air or the weather. Thus, the weather or the seasons. That's exactly why the storm gods like, let's say, Thor or Zeus or Baal, they're the gods of the weather. They control the universe. They control the world around us. They control the weather. Thus, they are the storm gods. And that's why Baal was associated with the sacred tree. Just like Nimrod, for example, or Tammuz. They are the ones that are sacrificed and then reborn again through the fertility of the year, exactly like Dionysus and the tree. Or you go way back into history and the Assyrians and the Babylonians and the tree, or Odin and the tree, thus the tree of sacrifice. So you see, this is why Saturn L, the ancient agricultural fertility god of the harvest or the season, the harvest lord, the sower and the reaper, or the father of time, was slain at the end of the year. Thus, the December time that we know as Christmas is actually the time of Saturnalia, the time at the end that is slain. That's why 12 is known as Christmas time, or Santa, which is Satan or Saturn. And that's why the letter L is actually the number 12, which represents Saturn or Saturn L. Thus, Saturn 9, because 9 is actually the last number. Thus, Saturn 9 is representative of Saturn L. So you see, that's why Odin, who is number 9, rides the 8-legged horse, which represents the 8 seasons of the year, or the 8 cross quarter days, or the wheel of the year, the pagan fertility seasons of the year. So now you'll understand why the slayer god Saturn L rides around on the sleigh, and why Santa Claus, or Saturn Claus, has the sleigh. So perhaps now you'll understand why we worship the sacred phallic tree during the end of the year, during Saturnalia or Christmas time. And that's why Santa Claus is associated with the sacred tree. So the sacred tree represents the sacred T, or the Tau, which is the Ankh, which represents life. So like I said, it's funny that you hate the pagan worship of trees, but yet your entire religion is based upon the sacred tree. So you see, this is why you don't have any knowledge, and you are not knowledgeable, because you do not know or have any idea where the edge of the ledge is. And that's why you don't know that wisdom or the Weisdom comes from the sacred tree. And you have no idea why the wise old owl sits in the sacred tree of knowledge. And that's why the tree gives us our wisdom and truth, or the Drew wood. And that's why you don't understand why an owl is always used for clocks, which represents time and the season, and why the Illuminati was making sacrifices to the sacred owl. So like I said, it's absolutely funny that you go around preaching about the very thing that your religion is all about. That which you hate is that which you are. So when you go around talking about the Bible and how great it is, when actually it's the story of the seasons and the ancient slain God. That's exactly why the story of the Bible is centered around the sacrifice of Jesus. And of course, he is sacrificed upon the cross, or the T, or the Tau, or the Taurus, which is the sacred tree. I mean, so why do you think they poked the side of Jesus upon the cross? Because the poking is what you do when you want to take the spirit of the animal, or the creature, or the anthropomorphic figure of the year. Thus, the spirit, or the voodoo doll, is poked to control the spirit. And thus, the corn doll is also poked because it is the voodoo doll, the doll of the harvest, the last sheaf. And that's why the Illuminati used a voodoo doll in the film 9. And the ninth month is September, the harvest month. Thus, this is when the grain is harvested, or the corn is harvested. And that's why you thresh the grain during harvest, the threshing. And that's exactly why Jesus, which is the spirit of the harvest, the corn fertility god, is slain or threshed. He is threshed with the sticks and beaten like the grain, because he is the corn fertility harvest lord. And believe it or not, almost all of us have actually taken part in this ancient ritual of threshing. This is why during your birthday on the annual year, or the cycle of the sun, this, at the end, and the new, is when you beat and thresh the piñata, and that's why it's tied to the sacred tree. And just like ancient times, everyone lines up to get their turn because the whole community was involved in the threshing of the grain. So stop going around preaching your death cult of the slain god, because if anyone does any real research, they'll quickly see that it's all a bunch of bullshit.